So a video went viral this week showing Twitch streamer Sneako meeting a group of young boys who are fans of his, and they started spouting a bunch of offensive statements at him about how they hate women and trans people and gay people.
The woman! What? All gay shit!
What have I done?
All to his visible surprise and horror. In the video, he actually tries to dissuade them from this. He's like, no, we like women or whatever, and they're like, okay, yeah, but we hate the gays, right?
We love women, we love women. We love women.
But not like transgenders.
And he's like shocked, he's shook. I was gonna say shooketh, but it's not 2019 anymore. And it certainly seemed to have an effect on him in the moment. That is until he went home and made a highly sarcastic apology video where he basically concluded by saying that it was good actually. It's good that the kids are like this. And it gives us a chance to talk about the world of online right-wing grifting, because there's been a lot of news around that this week. And it's time for us to ask, are the boys okay? Are the young boys doing all right? Because I worry about them. Because I'm a boys myself. I was a young boys once. I worry about what they're consuming. Welcome to Scroll Deep, the show that keeps up with internet nonsense so you don't have to keep up with, you don't have to even know who Sneako is, all right? I'll take on that burden for you and let you know. Make sure to hit follow so you can keep up with all the latest stuff that's happening. Sneako, if you don't know him, he's just like one of these guys online who streams a bit, games a bit, tweets controversial stuff. I mean, there's like a million kind of interchangeable examples of these guys who are just kind of loud, oh my God, can't believe he said that, kind of attention economy guys. There's nothing particularly unique about Sneako as far as I can tell. I would suggest he get like a colourful hat or something, just to sort of distinguish. Now, I don't know about you, but I assume like a 12-year-old boy, he's gonna spend most of his day thinking about, you know, innocent things, the Roman Empire, stuff like that. But these days, you've got these more and more extreme online figures, and they always just drift to the right, to the far right. And that is mainly because platforms will reward it, okay? YouTube and Twitter in particular are terrible for just really rewarding the most nonsense extreme content. So if you get these guys who don't believe in anything, they don't believe in anything except money, they're just trying to get the bag, they'll lean into it. That's why Sneako was shocked when these kids started sprouting this stuff, because he doesn't believe in it. He doesn't believe in anything. He doesn't think about the things he says. He's just trying to make money. You know, he doesn't have convictions. In a way, it's kind of the scariest type of person of all, the person who truly just doesn't believe in anything, who's just purely out for themselves. But then when he meets a 10-year-old boy who's like, I love you, Mr. Sneako, shall we kill everyone? He's like, whoa, I didn't realize you heard that stuff. Sneako, more like sneaky, because that guy's sneaky. Ha! Got him! Adin Ross is another one of these guys who went viral this week. Megan Thee Stallion posted this video and he commented on it saying, "Free Tory." Tory is the guy who went to prison for 10 years for shooting Megan Thee Stallion. Again, it's like, it's just about attention. It's just about who can be the most extreme. You know, all press is good press. The problem is when you've got this competition between all these dudes of who can be the most extreme, they all have to become even more extreme and even more ridiculous. And the young people are at home just eating this up. And probably the most frustrating thing is these guys won't shut up about the Matrix. But none of these guys understand the Matrix. Because they're like, oh, I've taken the red pill. I understand what it's all about. Like Andrew Tate, I've never known a man in the world who understands the Matrix less. He's always like, the Matrix is gonna get me. He talks about the Matrix like it's Bigfoot or something. Like, I think I heard the Matrix outside. The Matrix has got a gun and it's gonna get me. It's like, no man, the Matrix is a movie made by 2 trans women, by the way. There's nothing in the Matrix that's like, I saw a gay person once and now I'm scared. It's also like so specifically about being trans. Like, it's not even subtle that the Matrix is like aggressively about the experience of being trans, the experience of the Wachowski sisters finding themselves as trans women. And I love the idea of someone watching this incredibly transcoded movie and being like, basically you're saying a ghost is trying to kill me. But this online stuff, as nonsense as it may seem, it has a real effect on young people because they're drawn to figures like this. Because from their perspective, you got these hyper-masculine guys who say whatever they want and play video games all day and they're so cool. And it's like they can't read between the lines because they're 12. They can't see that it's just like a sad, hateful grifter who has quite an empty life, who's just saying anything they can to try and milk some attention for 5 minutes. Because, you know, when you're 12, it's like, he gets to stay up late and eat sweets and play Fortnite, this must be the coolest adult ever. Meanwhile, if you were in a room with that adult, you'd be like, what a freak. Speaking of which, you know, Russel this week had his YouTube channel completely demonetized. Another example of someone, you know, someone who was once a mainstream celebrity, tumbling down into the right-wing grift whirlpool, perhaps even more nefariously because he's now using that sort of conspiratorial language to try and defend and deflect from the quite serious real-world allegations that have been leveled against him. I'm not going to comment on the accusation stuff because that's incredibly incredibly heavy, but he started off as this guy who was like, hey, maybe companies are bad or whatever, and then started making these kind of slightly alternative YouTube videos. And then within like 3 years, he was like, yeah, you know, there's a giant conspiracy and everyone's trying to get you. And he just fell down that rabbit hole. And again, I don't think he believes any of this stuff, but it's just a way to make money off other paranoid people. You do occasionally get online figures who realize the effect they're having and take a bit of a step back. Like iDubbbz very much did this, where he was like, oh wow, I didn't like the content I was making. I didn't like hearing it reflected back at me from my young audience. PewDiePie as well, in a mixed kind of way. PewDiePie, after doing so much ironic racism and then discovering that his fans were racist, he certainly seemed to have a bit of an examination of the soul and was like, ooh, what am I doing here? Do I want to recalibrate? You know, occasionally you get these people who are like, am I the baddie? Are we the baddies? But you know, these people like Sneako or Adin, they're not going to have that realization. What's actually going to happen to them is that they're going to completely fall out of relevancy in like a year, because if your only unique thing is that you are just extreme, you're always going to be beaten by the newer, shinier, even more extreme guy who's going to come along in like a month after you. Do you know what I mean? Like, how many of these guys have fallen by the wayside now because someone even louder comes along and the grift just continues? But the effect they have on young people, that's lasting and that's scary. And I don't really know how to solve that, because the obvious answer is to present, you know, particularly young boys with better, more wholesome role models. But a wholesome role model can't really compete with a guy who's like, I've got a Ferrari and I'm gonna drive it off a cliff. Whereas a guy who's like, what if we were all very responsible? Like, it's hard to make 12-year-olds look up to that. There's also the revolutionary idea that, you know, boys are allowed to look up to people who aren't also boys. But I don't know if you all are ready for that conversation. It's not an easy thing to fix. I don't have a quick fix. I would say, if there's any young people watching, it's incredibly easy to be afraid and turn that fear into hatred. There was a young green man who I was friends with once, Yoda, and he spoke about how fear leads to the dark side. It's true though, all this kind of hatred and all this kind of lashing out from these guys comes from a place of such terror and insecurity. And it takes so much more strength to be like, yes, trans people exist, and I'm not going to attack them for that. I'm not going to be scared of someone I pass on the streets because they're a bit different to me. But what do you think we should do? Do you have any idea? Please, we need help. Let me know in the comments down below. How do we get ourselves out of this tangled mess? And also, if you have any tips about things we should cover on the show, stories or topics or whatever you want to see me talk about, let me know in the comments down below as well. And also make sure to follow and hit like to support the show. Till next time, I'll say my famous catchphrase that I've always said on the show. If you're not scrolling, it's not that deep. How many variations on that phrase can we milk?